Nice, California, and grew up in the San San Fernando Valley. He attended California State University, Northridge, majoring in business administration. During his time at CSUN, he interned at Price Waterhouse. This is the
It's an accounting firm.
famous accounting firm.
Yes.
Today he works as an accounting and administrative manager for Tower Cancer Research Foundation, a non-profit organization providing grants to cancer research scientists. In 70 years, scientists have been researching.
Yes.
Don't you think progress was slow?
The progress is slow because every single cancer is different.
No.
Leukemia, for example, is different than breast cancer, which is different than colon cancer, which is different than pancreatic cancer, which is different than brain cancer. In fact, my sister-in-law is currently suffering from the last stages of brain cancer right now. And the doctors have basically just said, then, go home and get your affairs in order, because that's...
Is that the difference between cancer and the other diseases?
Well, yes, primarily. And every cancer responds differently to different types of treatment. The most advanced sort of treatment that's out there right now is what's referred to as immunology, which is the ability to insert cells into the body that allow the rest of the body to fight the cancer off. Because the last thing you really want to do is inject chemotherapy, or because chemotherapy, when you boil right down to it, is a poison. So what you're essentially doing is you're poisoning your body in order to eradicate a cancer. And there are side effects associated with chemotherapy. One of the things that we do at work also is we provide classes for cancer survivors. And many of the survivors just need physical activity, even if it's light, simply because the chemotherapy has gone into their brain. And it produces a sort of depression that doesn't allow the person to want to be outside or to leave the house. They don't want to, even though they're perfectly healthy. They may be in remission for a couple of years, but the chemo is still there. And so we utilize these activities in order to get them not only just out of the house, but to be able to cycle the body so that way it eradicates the chemotherapy that's in the body.
And the notion of a vaccine is not...
Not at this point. I'm sure that at some point a vaccine will eventually do that, but the way a vaccine works, if you remember, is that a vaccine essentially puts into the body cells that have been weakened so that the body can immunize against those cells. They haven't been able to figure out how to immunize and fight a cancer, so they can't really do that. One day they may, but they're not at that point yet.
Jim Surmeian has served as Sunday school teacher at Emmanuel Armenian Congregational Church for the past 11 years. For the past 20 years, Jim Surmeian has been the treasurer of the Armenian Allied Arts Association. He is the commander of the Knights of Artan Sevan Lodge. He is married to Zabel Afsharian and has a 21-year-old daughter who will graduate from UCLA this year with a degree in biochemistry. He admits his biggest challenge is learning Armenian. His wife is optimistic this will happen one day. There is a good method to learn Armenian. Just tell your wife Zabel to speak to you in Armenian for the next 6 months. Only Armenian.
Yes.
The first week you won't understand anything. Second week you will start to learn. It's called the immersion method.
Yes. There was those of you who were at the meeting on Tuesday or Monday night saw Zovig Tashchin give a message, and she was very apologetic about her English. You know, I said, Lord, I'm sorry, I hope you all understand what I said. And eventually I was invited to the podium, and I reached out to Zovig and I said, you know, I have that same problem with Armenian. But my wife says that Yete yeska haskanam vor inch gses tun jisht kochosis. Whether I'm right or I'm wrong, it doesn't matter. Me, I'm jishten, if I can be understood. If I cannot be understood, sachal kochosi. You know, being married to someone from Armenia has been an interesting change in life for someone who was born and raised, not just myself, but my dad being born and raised here. You know, there's and it kind of goes along with my own Armenian. I was at a christening for a member of my wife's family, and going to a christening for a Hayastansi christening is interesting because often they're not very appropriate. The first one I went to included belly dancers. And I remember driving home and telling my wife, you know, I remember reading the book of Acts many times. I remember that Paul went to Ephesus, baptized people in the name of God, entire families and children, and yet I don't remember any part of Acts where there were belly dancers. But this one didn't have any belly dancers. This one was interesting in and of itself, but I was going to speak the following day at our missions luncheon, and I was thinking about what I was going to say. And my wife's brother said to me, Jim, Inchu kochoris.
Inchu or inch?
Inch kochoris. Hayreneslavche. Sakhala. So, so I told him and I thought about it and I said, well, now, I wasn't going to give a sermon, but I figured that was close enough. There was no way I was going to be able to explain to him in Armenian what the subject matter that I was going to speak about. So I reverted back to what I usually tell people. You know, I'll say, God is good, devil is bad. Basic. Okay. So I said, Gokor, BDSM, Asvad Zlave Yev. I had no idea what the word devil was in Armenian. So I leaned over to my wife and I said, Hokis John, he just said that I devil. Yeah. And she goes, Sadana. I said, Sadana, like Santana. Sadana? No, Hokis. Sadana, you know, Satan. Okay, Askatsa. So I said, Asvad Zlave Yev Sadana Lav Chi. I could have said Batne, but you know, you understand where I'm going. My wife turns to me and says, after all these years of teaching Sunday school and going to church and giving a sermon here and there, how do you not know the word devil in Armenian? And I said, Hokis John, I go to church, I worship God, and I focus only on Him. The other guy I try not to worry about. What's Sadana? Sadana Ove. So, the other guy.
Jim Surmeian, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Sure. Thank you.
Our topic is the greatness of serving others.
Yes.
Jim Surmeian.